All right, we need to make our study guide for Federalist 51 so we can study this foundational document. All right, so you're going to need a green sheet. It probably looks like this. Maybe you printed this out, or you're going to just create one on a blank sheet of notebook paper. Definitely keep all the documents together. The reason why in class I'm using green is so that way it's just easy. Like you have just an area, and there's all these green documents. Those are all your foundational documents. Just grab them, and it's easy to study. All right, so do the same thing in your notebook, even if you're working at home for this class. All right, Federalist 51 required document, actually number 6. And the issue is actually separation of powers. All right, so the key issue here is separation of powers and how this is going to protect everybody's rights. I mean, this is right out of Montesquieu, right out of Baron de Montesquieu's Spirit of Laws. All right, let's go through it. I have like 2 parts to this, and I have like a 4th point, and then the second 4 points are like a little mnemonic device that is absolutely horrendous. I'll admit it's just dumb, but sometimes dumb works. Like dumb is what you remember. You know, if you go to class and the first thing that happens is I trip and fall in a trash can, which by the way happened at the end of a class one time my first year teaching, like that's the thing you remember. Like you never forget that because it was just dumb. Well, sometimes like that'll happen with class too, is if you learn something, some dumb hook or some stupid saying, like you remember that because it's just kind of stupid. So let's see how this works. All right, first points though are not like a hook. It's just the truth of what is in Federalist 51. All right, Federalist 51. First off, Madison argues to avoid a concentration of power. You know, to avoid a person getting the power to make law, interpret law, enforce law, that would be a tyranny. Ambition must counteract ambition. And you do that through checks and balances. You do that by separation of power. Ambition, a desire to get things done and to be super successful and have everybody love you, they must counteract ambition. By the way, ambition can be a good thing, but it can also lead to ruin. All right, and then another thing that Madison makes a point is that these people that are ambitious, you can't really trust them. Because if men were angels, no government is necessary. Like, not only do the people need government because we aren't angels, also the people in government are not angels. They are not good people, just like we are not good people. Now, some people may be good people, but there's a tendency that corruption will happen. Like, they're humans. Like, they're just like some might be good and some aren't. And so you need government, but that also means that when you put people in government, there's a chance that people will do bad things who take over government, and we've seen that happen throughout history, of course. So government must control the governed, meaning the people. And they're thinking of Shays Rebellion, like people will rebel against the government. They could loot, they could destroy property, they could do bad things. They could hurt other people, but also the government needs to control itself because the government is also made up of human beings. Therefore, they can do bad things as well. One of the biggest controls on government is the people voting. But Madison and the founders, they weren't completely convinced, as we see in Federalist 10, they weren't completely convinced that the people, you could always trust them either. All right, because we get a mob mentality. We will do things in a group. This is just psychology here. We will do things in a group of people that we would never do on our own. We will do things in a group we would never do on our own. We would never maybe be mean or bully people and be cruel to others. And then we get in a group of friends, and then all of a sudden we're sitting there being cruel and being horrible to someone who has maybe a disability. Like that stuff happens in middle school. It happens in elementary school. It happens in high school. It happens in real life. All right. Let's go through a really, really bad mnemonic. Okay, so I didn't have this typed up exactly the way I wanted it. The branches of government check each other should be first. You put the B over there to the left, but branches of government check each other. So divide up the powers. That's the first thing. That's the B, branches check each other. Divide up power, have branches check each other. B, branches check each other. All right, that's the first thing. All right, second thing. Yeah, there we go. I wrote it correctly here. See, branches of government divide powers. Branches of government divide up the powers, and then they check each other. All right, there's the B. L, legislative power dominates. So therefore, you got to break it into two houses. So legislative power, the power to make law, dominates. So you need to break it into two houses, House and Senate. So get some branches of government, divide up the power to check each other. Then you got to divide up the legislative power because it's a check, because it's powerful. Another check in this system that they're creating is that there's so many interest groups in a larger public that it will break society into all kinds of parts, and that's a check. No one group controls the Democrat Party. No one group controls the Republican Party. They are alliances of compromise between different various groups. And sometimes groups change one political party to another based on the politics of it. And so that's actually good because it keeps our politics a little more central ideology. And the last thing, F, federalism. So the acronym is BLIF, by the way. Federalist 51, BLIF. All right, it makes no sense. I understand that. All right, federalism, power is divided between state and federal governments. You can't see the federal government, but that's what the F is, just going off the screen near my face. All right, so federalism, power is divided between state and federal. So we have branches of government. We have the legislative power divided. We have a lot of interest groups in a large republic. And we have federalism, power divided by state and federal government. And all of these things serve to protect our rights, because the whole purpose of creating this Constitution is to protect people's rights, like speech, like religion. Why? Because governments in history never did. Like, governments in history, throughout history, violate people's rights. And so now we got to create a government that actually protects them. All right, awesome. Study that, whiteboard it, write it out, practice it a couple times, and then you also have some online practice as well. All right, thanks, guys.